My fellow Americans.
Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
A man holds in his mortal hand the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
One day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
He says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that.
Aleister Crowley is a fantastic. I remember one day I was just up late with my friend. I was just like surfing the web while he was playing some video game I didn't have. So I just started like reading it to him, and then like it totally distracted me, and he just like he got totally invested. And then he actually asked me the next time we were talking late. He was like, "Dude, you should just find another thing to read to me right now." But that's a really good Wikipedia page. If you just there's like so many things in it that we could just talk about for a while. Yeah. Like how much of a piece of shit he was, like how much he just didn't take care of his family.
How much of a piece of shit he was, yeah. I mean,
He was a huge piece of shit.
that is true.
He plays the he's like the main villain of a major part of the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen's comic. They give him a different name.
Mm.
That's something that they often do, is that it's like all based on fictional characters, but then when they're talking about like a real person, they'll just give him a fake name.
All right, I did find a guy who put together a list of over 600 and something strange and fun Wikipedia pages. So these are the categories. We have biographies, the top 20, spy stuff / Cold War, mysterious deaths / disappearances, people who kill their whole families and try to disappear, radiation / nuclear happenings.
That's called family annihilating.
I didn't know that was a thing. I mean, I know that was a thing, but I didn't know they had a word for it.
Yeah.
True crime includes serial killers, and subcategory of true crime, politically motivated crime. So what should we do? Yeah.
Let's do strange deaths.
You want to check out the top 20 real quick and see if there's anything cool in there? Because that's just like a bunch of different shit.
No, sure, dude.
But that is, I want to do strange deaths too.
Yeah, you're pretty good looking for a girl.
The Tamam Shud
You know that song?
No, what is that?
That's the White Stripes. That's Jack White.
What song?
Yeah, you're pretty good. It's called Pretty Good Looking for a Girl.
I don't remember that one.
That's such a funny song.
I like Hotel Yorba. So this is like a quick top 20 of what this guy has put together before we get into mysterious deaths and disappearances.
Hit me with that.
So we have the Tamam Shud case. This is a Wikipedia article that started it all for this guy. While some developments in the last 10 years reduced the mystery of this article, it's still great like any good story that unfolds. Doesn't really say what it is, but I guess it's a case. Maybe that'll be in the disappearances and deaths one.
Let's just look it up, honestly, real quick, because that's crazy that they're like, oh, this is one of them, and then provides no information.
The Somerton Man. Carl Webb was born, Melvin, the youngest of 6.
Oh, I know the Somerton Man. That's like some body that was found.
Dorothy Webb also said that her husband had attempted suicide with an overdose of ether, that she had nursed him back to health, and he had scolded her for it.
You should have let me die, bitch.
You should have let me die, bitch. Yeah.
Funny to you? That was a serious, dramatic reenactment. It's not to be laughed about.
I think that's how it would have went, too.
I'm also kidding. Like, you're totally down. I'm still playing up the part.
So I guess what they're saying is that maybe Dorothy Webb let him die or something, or that he killed himself. I don't know.
Possible.
The Somerton Man. What else do we got, though? Men's marathon at the 1904 Summer Olympics. The winner ingests brandy and rat poison during the race.
Ingest what?
Brandy and rat poison during the race.
Oh, like on purpose?
I guess so.
Why?
I don't know.
The winner ingested brandy and rat poison.
I don't know. The 4th place finisher, Darren Carswell, took a nap during the race after eating spoiled apples. The actual winner, Thomas Hicks, was near collapse and hallucinating by the end of the race, a side effect of being administered brandy, raw eggs, and strychnine by his trainers.
That's fucked up.
That's crazy. That makes sense, though.
Up.
Well, yeah, these are just like giving like quick like things about it. Like this one's about DB Cooper. We all know who DB Cooper is. Dude leapt out of a plane like over Oregon or something like that, and had a whole bunch of money that he stole after he like basically hijacked the plane. June 1962, Alcatraz escape attempt, a detailed and well-researched article about a combination mystery and prison escape. Imperial Transantarctic expedition, the unbelievable tale of endurance. Another one about Robert Hansen. He was a secret spy inside the FBI, a mole. Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, what would you do to survive? Gold base. Unsurprisingly, the Scientologists are up to no good. Corrupted blood incident. What can a World of Warcraft bug tell us about real-world pandemics? I've heard about that one.
What is the category for this again? What are the categories of these articles?
This is just the top 20 of what this guy found of the 600 and something like articles.
These are the top 20?
These are the ones he considers the top 20, which a lot of these I've heard of.
Yeah.
The Colditz Castle, unbelievably fun article about escape attempts from a German POW camp. That sounds really fun. The Lindbergh kidnapping. That's probably about the Lindbergh baby. Terra Nova expedition, a doomed expedition to be the first to the South Pole. One of the last survivors walked out of the tent and said, I am going outside and may be gone for some time, and was never seen again. Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum, the most famous art heist in the U.S. history, still totally unsolved. That sounds cool. That sounds really cool. Groucho Marx. Irving Berlin quipped that the world would not be in such a snarl had Marx been Groucho instead of Karl. Groucho himself does a Charleston on Hitler's grave. The Church of the Subgenius, a religion of questionable sincerity which strives to slack off as much as possible and worships a drawing of Ward Cleaver. That's weird. Demon Core. A classic Wikipedia page that gets on all these types of lists. A single radioactive core is responsible for multiple deaths. I've heard about that one before. I think it was in this room they were messing around with this, and they all of a sudden uncapped it, and it let loose like a whole bunch of radiation.
Wait, who did that?
This was like in the 40s, I think it was.
Was it American scientists? Where was this?
Yeah, it was American scientists. All right, so let's go over this real quick. This sounds pretty interesting, honestly.
Yeah.
The Demon Core was a sphere of plutonium that was involved in 2 fatal radiation accidents when scientists tested it at a fissile core of an early atomic bomb. It was manufactured in 1945 by the Manhattan Project, the U.S. nuclear weapons development effort during World War II. It was a subcritical mass that weighed 6.2 kilos and 14 pounds and was 8.9 centimeters, 3.5 inches in diameter. The core was prepared for the shipment to the Pacific Theater as part of the 3rd nuclear weapon to be dropped on Japan. But when Japan surrendered, the core was retained for testing and potential later use in the case of another conflict. The 2 criticality accidents occurred at the Los Alamos Laboratory in New Mexico on August 21st, 1945 and May 21st, 1946. In both cases, an experiment was intended to demonstrate how close the core was to criticality, using a neutron reflective tamper layer of dense material surrounding the fissile material. In both accidents, the core was accidentally put into a critical configuration. Physicist Harry Daghlian in the first accident and Louis Slotin in the second accident both suffered acute radiation syndrome and died shortly afterward. At the same time, others present in the laboratory were also exposed. The core was melted down during the summer of 1946, and the material was recycled for use in other cores. So that's what I heard of was that happening in the room of people. Interesting, though. First incident, the core once assembled was designed to be minus 5 cents. In this state, there was only a small safety margin against extraneous factors that might increase reactivity, causing the core to become supercritical and then prompt critical, a brief state of rapid energy increase. These factors are not common in the environment. They are not only likely to occur under conditions such as the compression of solid metallic core, which would eventually be the method used to explode the bomb. The addition of more nuclear material, a provision of an external reflector which would reflect outbound neutrons back into the core. The experiments conducted at Los Alamos leading to the 2 fatal accidents were designed to guarantee that the core was indeed close to the critical point by arranging such reflectors and seeing how much neutron reflection was required to approach supercriticality. On August 21st, 1945, the plutonium core produced a burst of neutron radiation that resulted in physicist Harry Daghlian's death. Daghlian made a mistake while performing the neutron reflector experiments on the core. He was working alone. A security guard, Private Robert J. Hemmerly, was seated at the desk 10 to 12 feet away. The core was placed within a stack of neutron-reflective tungsten carbide bricks, and the addition of each brick made the assembly closer to criticality. While attempting to stack another brick around the assembly, Daghlian accidentally dropped it into the core and thereby caused the core to go well into supercriticality, a self-sustaining critical chain reaction. Following the criticality, a bright blue light flashed throughout the room. He quickly moved the brick off the assembly, but he received a fatal dose of radiation. He died 25 days later from acute radiation poisoning. The guard actually died in 1978, 33 years after the accident, of acute myelogeniosis leukemia. On May 21st, 1946, the physicist Louis Slotin and 7 other, this is the one that I heard about, and 7 other personnel were in a Los Alamos laboratory conducting another experiment to verify the closeness of the core to criticality by the positioning of neutron reflectors. Slotin, who was leaving Los Alamos, was showing the technique to Alvin C. Graves, who would use it in a final test before Operation Crossroads nuclear test scheduled a month later at Bikini Atoll. It required the operator to place 2 half spears of beryllium, a neutron reflector, around the core to be tested and manually lower the top reflector over the core using a thumb hole at the polar point, as the reflectors were manually moved closer and farther away from each other. Neutron detectors indicated the core's multiplication rate. The experimenter needed to maintain a slight separation between the reflector halves to allow enough neutrons to escape from the core in order to stay below criticality. The standard protocol was to use shims between the halves, as allowing them to close completely could result in the instantaneous formation of a critical mass and a lethal power excursion. This is what I've heard. So I think one of the guys accidentally knocked the shim and it fell down for like a second and caused like a supercriticality.
What's a shem?
A shem is like if you want to put like something in like a shimmy, like if you want to build something, like you want to fix like a table from wobbling, you put a shim into it to stop it from wobbling.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just like a thing to just keep it slightly open to prevent it from closing completely. It's just like a thing to keep it cracked, basically.
A stopper.
Yeah, exactly. By Slotin's own unapproved protocol, the shims were not used. The top half of the reflector was resting directly on the bottom half at one point. While 180 degrees from this point, a gap was maintained by the blade of a flat-tip screwdriver in Slotin's hand. Size of the gap between the reflectors would change by twisting the screwdriver. Slotin, who was given to bravado, became the local expert, performing the test on almost a dozen occasions, often in the use of his trademark jeans and cowboy boots, in front of a room full of observers. Enrico Fermi reportedly told Slotin and others that they would be dead within a year if they continued performing the test in that manner. The scientists referred to this flirtation with a nuclear chain reaction as tickling the dragon's tail, based on a remark by Richard Feynman.
Funny thing to say. I like
it.
According to who?
Richard Feynman, physicist Richard Feynman.
That sounds so familiar.
Yeah, he's a famous physicist.
Tickling the dragon's tail. I feel like I don't think I've ever heard that before, but that's got to be a famous line, right?
Known for his work in path integral formulation of quantum mechanics, the theory of quantum electrodynamics, and the physics of superfluidity of supercooled liquid helium, and in particle physics. So yeah, he's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that he would refer to it like that.
Hey, he's a fine man.
He's a fine man. On the day of the accident, Slotin's screwdriver slipped outward a fraction of an inch while he was lowering the reflector, allowing the reflector to fall into place around the core. Instantly, there was a flash of light. The core had become supercritical, releasing an intense burst of neutron radiation. Slotin quickly twisted his wrist, flipping the top shell to the floor. There was an estimated half-second between when the sphere closed to when Slotin removed the top reflector. Slotin received a lethal dose of 1,000 rad, 10 GY, neutron and 114 rad, 1.14 GY gamma radiation in less than a second, while the position of Slotin's body over the apparatus shielded the others from much of the radiation. Slotin died 9 days later from acute radiation poisoning. So this guy's body being over the actual sphere shielded a lot of the other people from dying right away. Graves, the next nearest person to the core, was watching over Slotin's shoulder and was thus partially shielded by him. He received a high but not lethal radiation dose. Graves was hospitalized for several weeks with severe radiation poisoning. He died 19 years later at age 55 of heart failure. While this may have been caused by Graves' exposure to radiation, the condition may have been hereditary, as his father also died of heart failure. The second accident was reported by the Associated Press on May 26, 1946. 4 men injured through accidental exposure to radiation in the government's atomic laboratory in Los Alamos have been discharged from the hospital. An immediate condition of 4 others is satisfactory, the Army reported today. Dr. Norris E. Bradbury, project director, said the men were injured last week in what he described as an experiment with fissionable material. Later research was performed concerning the health of the men. An early report was published in 1951. A later report was compiled for the U.S. government, submitted in 1979. The immediate aftermath of Slotin died 9 days later of acute radiation, and then Graves died in 1965 of myocardial infarction. With aggravating compensated myxedemia and cataracts while skiing. Samuel Allen Klein, 55 years later, at age 81, refused to participate with studies and was prevented from obtaining his own medical records from the incident. That's crazy. Marion Edward Cieślinski died of acute myeloeclectic leukemia in 65, 19 years after the accident. Dwight Smith Young died of a spastic anemia and bacterial endocarditis in 75, 29 years. Raymer Schreiber died of natural causes in 98. And Theodore Perlman, alive and in good health and spirits as of 78, most likely died in June 88 in Livermore, California. I love how they don't even know. And then Private Patrick Cleary. Sergeant First Class Cleary was killed in action, so that one don't even matter. Well, I mean, it does matter. He did matter. He does matter.
He died in action. That one didn't matter.
He does matter. He he's a war hero, but he doesn't matter to this.
What didn't matter?
I mean, there's no connection to the radiation poisoning.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with the story we're talking about, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. You get it.
Tell me that's not what you meant.
No, that's what I meant.
All right, cool.
That was a pretty interesting one, though.
Yeah.
The Demon Corps. There's only 3 more left, and then we'll go to disappearances. Kowloon Walled City, the densest neighborhood in history, the historiography of The Simpsons. When exactly did The Simpsons get bad? Did it ever? And then number 20, Timeline of the Far Future. Parlay payouts on these must be nuts. Interesting. There's a lot of really interesting people on this list, too, of biographies, but, let's see. Spy stuff, Cold War, that sounds pretty cool. Mysterious deaths. All right. Joyce Vincent. Who even sets up auto pay for their rent anyway? So I'm guessing that's what this person did.
I don't get it. Like what?
Joyce Vincent was a British woman whose death went unnoticed for more than 2 years as her corpse lay undiscovered at her bedsit in North London. Prior to her death, she had cut off nearly all contact with those who knew her. She resigned from her job in 2001 and moved into a shelter for victims of domestic abuse.
Damn.
Around the same time, she began to reduce contact with friends and family. She died sometime in December 2003. Her remains were discovered on 25th of January 2006, with the cause of death believed to be either an asthma attack or complications from a recent peptic ulcer. That's sad.
Yeah, this just sounds like a sad one. I don't know if this is really interesting.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of sad ones in the mysterious deaths, but we'll go through it.
Like, there's way more mysterious deaths already that keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. Let me go. A Yogsi.
Like, we'll be the fucking judge of this.
Exactly.
I wouldn't doubt if this guy ignores all the actual cool conspiracy deaths because he's not a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
Thinks it's stupid. What a loser.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The Yogs
we've only heard 2 things from him, so let him continue.
The Yogsi case refers to the death of unemployed German food engineer Gunther Stoll, which occurred on 26th of October, 1984.
Gunther is a really good name.
I agree, especially for a German man.
Continue. Especially for a penguin.
Yes, that is true. Mysterious circumstances and the case is unsolved. In April 2025, the case was closed as accidental after new searchings revealed that it was most likely a single car accident. All right, well, we can close that one then. The Yuba County Five were a group of young men from Yuba County, United States, California, each with mild intellectual disabilities or psychiatric conditions who were reported missing
I
after
know this
attending a
one.
college
I know
basketball
this
game
one.
in Chico.
This is it's pretty interesting, but again, not that interesting.
They were later found dead. All right,
Yeah.
case closed.
A bunch of guys who really needed a lot of help all decided to hang out together after their basketball game late, and they went driving in a dangerous place where it's cold, and they all died.
Sounds like a bad idea, and it sounds like what happens.
Yeah, like who is letting them hang out by I'm sure this happens all the time, but like that's just, it's not crazy at all that this happened. That's why I find it strange that this is one of the top 20.
No, this isn't top 20. We're just in disappearances now. Yeah.
This is just interesting disappearances and deaths.
Yeah.
Okay.
We moved on from the top 20, don't worry. We got Wallace Fard Muhammad was a religious leader who was the founder and first leader of the Nation of Islam. I guess he disappeared mysteriously. This might be an interesting one. Let me go to his death. All right, his fate and death. It is not known what became of Fard or the circumstances of his death. Though he was a naturalized citizen, he may have been forced to accept voluntary deportation. In 1932, the Escanaba Daily Press reported that he had been awaiting an immigration hearing. After he had departed Detroit, Fard visited Hazel Baton, the mother of his child in Los Angeles. She recalled him only eating 1 meal per day as part of his new lifestyle. Hazel recalled he was driving a new car with California plates with white sheets covering the seats. He left the sheets with her, saying he was going back to New Zealand. Fard's last known contact with the Nation of Islam was a letter sent from Mexico, which was received in March 1934. Morrow speculates that Fard might have tried to return to the U.S. under another name. For decades after Fard's disappearance, Elijah Muhammad maintained that Fard was alive and well. Fard suffered from diabetes and had to carry sugar packets. Morrow notes the possibility that Fard might have died not long after his disappearance. All right. I don't know. Ricky McCormick encrypted notes, one of the better unsolved ciphertext cases out there. Carl McCunn, less publicized than an Into the Wild case, but no less desire. The Peter Bergman case, the 21st century Tamam Shud case, almost as good.
Are you just skipping through?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to look for a good one. A kidnapped woman who...
Some of those already sounded way cooler than that one.
I know. Oh, here we go. This is what I kind of wanted. Larry Hillblom. Elon Musk is not the tech founder with the most despicable parentage patterns, actually. Well, that's not what I thought that was like a connection, but... You know what's a good one? The Elisa Lam case.
Oh, everybody knows that.
I know, but that's a good one.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. When I watched the video of her stepping in and out of the elevator, that shit freaks me out.
All right. Well, does everybody know about the book In Cold Blood by Truman Capote?
No.
So there was a book called In Cold Blood by Truman Capote that was really interesting. It was a real story. Back in the 1950s, there were these couple of like stupid greasers, right? Who this is actually why people started to hate the greasers, was because of this. They actually planned a robbery on a farmhouse who the locals said like had like a bunch of money stashed away, and this one dude ended up like bewildering, or like after he met this other dude in like jail, ended up getting him to like go in on like this scheme to rob these people. So they got to the house and they watched it for a few days. What ended up happening is they broke into the house and tied up everybody in the house and figured out that there was no money, if I'm not mistaken, and there was not that much. And they ended up killing like everybody in the house. And then they go on the run for like a few days. And what ends up happening is they get like captured trying to go to like Mexico. And Truman Capote, this famous writer from the 50s, ends up going to the prison and like interviewing them and getting like the whole story about like what happened. and how like one of the guys basically manipulated the other guy into like doing all of like the crazy shit. It was a pretty interesting book.
Huh.
Yeah, I can. That's one of the. That's a book that I really recommend a lot of people read. But it gets really dark at times because it pretty much goes through and describes like exactly what happened when they entered the house. Like goes into great detail about the fucked up shit that happens. But if you want to hear like one of the craziest like true stories of like murder and like robbery and like something that changed like the image of an entire generation, then highly recommend that.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a good one. In a similar case, if you want another really good book that I highly recommend, Chaos by Tom O'Neill. It pretty much goes through like the connections of like the Manson family and like the MK Ultra like CIA connections that he might have had and like who like his handler might have like been and shit like that. And a guy that we both know actually told a story about this guy, Zach Kreger from The Whitest Kids You Know. He mentioned that he actually lived next door to Tom O'Neill for a long time. And he said that for like 20 years, he wrote this book and was like going crazy, like writing it and like doing all the, like getting all these crazy facts. And like, he would randomly be like, "Hey, Tom, what's up?" And he'd be like, "Oh, there's some this crazy connection." And he would like unload on him, I guess, about like all the crazy, like connections between the government. Yeah. It was kind of a cool neighbor moment right there. But I love that like it's like such a random connection from like two people that like
Hey Tom, how's it going? They're fucking putting poison in your toothpaste.
They're brainwashing us through the TVs, man. You gotta watch out, man. Yeah, so I got a new movie coming out, Tom. It's pretty good. It's called Miss March. No, it's not that good.
That movie was great.
It was all right, but I love it because it was them. All right, but that was an interesting one. Should we just real quick tell everybody what the Eliza Lamb thing is, just in case there is even one person that doesn't know?
Dude, no. Everybody knows, and if they don't, you're not ready for this. You're not ready for what we're going to be talking about. So go look that up first. We're going to keep on moving forward.
All right, we won't ever refer to Eliza Lamb again in this episode, or possibly again in the future at all whatsoever. We'll
honestly, yeah, like that's what I'm leaning toward.
Nothing, there's nothing that we don't all already know about her frantically looking around outside of the elevator and winding up in a water tower like hours, if not minutes later, and everybody drinking that water for the next few days, not realizing that there's a dead body in it. We don't need to get into it. Anyways, Death Valley. And we also don't even need to get into the fact that that's happened in multiple hotels and multiple places where people report that they'll be drinking water and all of a sudden they get a strange taste and then they find a dead body, or like brown water comes out and then they find a dead body in the water part of the hotel. The death of Gareth Williams, found dead in a bag locked from the outside. The death of Gloria Ramirez. Woman dies with what seems to be toxic blood. That sounds interesting.
Is it the lady who all the nurses in her room were like getting sick and passing out?
I have no idea. Wasn't that Typhoid Mary?
I think so. So that's what. Read this one. Read about this one.
A toxic lady. By the media when several hospital workers became ill after airborne exposures to her body and blood. Hey, you're right. This is probably that lady, but there was Typhoid Mary back in like the 1800s or something too. She'd been attempting the emergency room suffering from late-stage cervical cancer. While treating Ramirez, 3 hospital workers fainted and others experienced symptoms such as shortness of breath and muscle spasms. 5 workers required hospitalization, one of whom remained in intensive care for 2 weeks. Ramirez died herself from complications related to her cancer shortly after arriving at the hospital. The incident was initially considered to be a case of mass hysteria. In an investigation by Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory suggests that Ramirez had been self-administering dimethyl sulfoxide as a pain treatment. The oxygen from the mask provided by the paramedics during her transport to the hospital likely converted the DMSO into dimethyl sulfate, a highly toxic and carcinogenic alkylating agent. Although dimethyl sulfate is a very low vapor pressure at body temperature, it is believed to have transition to a gaseous state due to the vacuum inside the vacuum container. This is similar to how water boils at a lower temperature when exposed to low pressure. This theory has been endorsed by the Riverside Coroner's Office and published in the Journal of Forensic Science International. That's pretty interesting, honestly. That's like a crazy, like, random happening. You were right, though. That was, you called it.
Yeah, I've heard of that one. That's a good one. Like, if you, like, just hearing them talk more about the details, like, it really stumps you. It really just sounds insane.
It does, but I get it. It makes
Your instincts are usually like my instincts were like, oh, radiation of some kind. Like maybe she had cancer, maybe she was like being like the early days. I don't know anything about like chemotherapy, but I was thinking maybe just like like a back alley chemotherapy. They're like, hey, I have this stick of uranium, and if you just poke your cancer with this,
I mean, that
it'll die and fall
in
off.
a way, that's kind of what was happening, you know?
Yeah, but it's really meant to be done like slowly, very slowly, right?
Yeah.
Not just like swallowing a uranium.
No, I know, but you're right though. That is kind of what happened. It was a thing that she thought was supposed to help the situation, but ended up leading to a much more complicated situation.
Yeah.
Black Dahlia. I think we all know about Black Dahlia, but I do want to get into Black Dahlia again another time. Honestly, I want to have a whole episode where we talk like old school like crime cases and like and murder mysteries and shit. You know, like pre-50s stuff, like before like we got into like aliens and shit. And like toppling like governments, when everything was more simple and all we had to deal with was the mafia and, you know, stuff like that. We also have the lead masks case. 2 men lying dead in a field wearing lead masks. I've never heard of that.
That's scary.
Yeah, that one's creepy. The disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley, lesser known story of the classic pretty white girl in the Caribbean goes missing genre. Okay, that was a very interesting trope they put in there. The disappearance of Ben McDaniel. A man goes cave diving and never returns. The mystery, there's no evidence of him dying in the water nor ever getting out of it. That's weird.
Something pulled him in.
I don't know. That sounds like an interesting one. Let's go to that one.
Yeah.
He was reported missing after employees in the dive shop at Vortex Spring, north of Ponce de Leon, Florida, noticed that his pickup truck had remained in the shop's parking lot for the previous 2 days. McDaniel, who had been diving regularly at the spring while living in his parents' nearby beach house, had last been seen by 2 of the house employees on the evening of August 18th, on a dive entering a cave 58 feet below the water surface. While he was initially believed to have drowned on that dive, and his parents still strongly believed his body is in an inaccessible reach of the extensive cave system, no trace of him has ever been found. The state of Florida issued his family a death certificate in 2013. McDaniel had been living at his parents' beach house on the Emerald Coast during a sabbatical in the wake of a divorce, a business failure, and the death of his younger brother 2 years earlier. An avid diver since his teens, he had been a regular at the spring where he had apparently been covertly exploring the cave despite lacking the required certification. Lengthy searches have only located some anomalously placed and filled decompression tanks. Many of the divers who took part in those searches believe that if McDaniel is indeed dead, his body is not in the cave as he was too large to enter its narrower passages. The McDaniels devoted their family's extensive financial search resources to the search, at one point guaranteeing the replacement cost of a remotely operated underwater vehicle. A reward they offered was rescinded in 2012 after the death of another diver who may have been trying to collect it, vindicating the criticism of the divers who had been warned of that possibility and resented the McDaniels' insinuation that those who had searched for their son at great personal risk had not been brave enough. That's crazy.
Wow.
Although McDaniels continued to believe that his body is in an area of the cave beyond the reach of current search capabilities, they have also entertained the possibility that his death was not an accident but the result of foul play. A private investigator they hired believes that his body may have been removed before any authorities were contacted, or that he may have even been murdered on land and the narrative of the disappearance fabricated as a cover of story.
I mean, true.
That's crazy. That's wild.
True.
A segment of Investigation Discoveries Disappeared was devoted to the case, as well as Ben's Vortex, a documentary co-directed by diver Jill Heinrich. In addition to the accident and murder theories, the documentary also considers the possibility that McDaniel staged the disappearance to escape a troubled recent past that included a divorce and financial setbacks. The McDaniels have vehemently rejected that theory, pointing to the dog and girlfriend he left behind, as well as doubting that he would have knowingly subjected them to that level of grief, seeing as how his brother's death had affected them. It's interesting.
I like to think that he went down but found a path that he couldn't help but follow, and when he resurfaced, he just like was in this beautiful inner Earth Agartha setting and just never went back. All right, moving on.
The Salish Sea Human Foot Discoveries. This one has the feel of a case that's going to get solved.
I've heard about this one too.
Lifetimes. What is this about?
It's just like it's just suspected to be just like mafia shit, but it's these feet just keep washing up ashore.
Interesting.
I think that's what it is.
Kinda-
Tell me what it is.
Almost like
So
Taylor
accurate.
Swift.
Reach, but go ahead.
Reach, but go ahead. A girl visiting from Washington picked up a size 12 Adidas shoe and opened the sock to find a man's right foot. It is thought to become disarticulated due to submerged decay. That's crazy. This is on August 20th, 2007. This kind of shoe was produced in 2003 and was distributed mainly in India. A man's right foot, size 12, white and blue mesh running shoe. The remains were identified as those of a missing man suffering from depression. In August 26, 2007, a man's right foot discovered by a couple also disarticulated due to decay. It was waterlogged and appeared to have been taken ashore by an animal. It was probably floated ashore from the south. The shoe, size 12, white Reebok, was produced in 2004 and sold worldwide, but primarily in North America, and the type has since been discontinued. In February 8, 2008, a right foot in the size of 11 Nike, the remains were identified as 21-year-old Surrey man reported missing 4 years prior, whose death is considered not suspicious, indicating either misadventure or suicide. This type of shoe was sold in Canada and the United States between February 1st, 2003 and June 20th, 2003. It has been confirmed that the right foot found on February 8th on the Valdez Island, left foot found on June 19th on Westham Island belonged to the same man. Okay. The Kirkland Island, a woman's right foot, blue, and this is May 22nd, 2008, a woman's right foot, blue and white New Balance sneaker. The fourth foot was discovered on an island in Fraser Delta, Richmond, between Richmond and Delta, British Columbia. Is also wearing a sock and sneaker. It is thought to have washed down the Fraser River, having nothing to do with the ones found in the Gulf Islands. The shoe was a New Balance sneaker manufactured in 1999. In 2011, the fourth sneaker found in Kirkland Island was identified as being part of a pair of blue and white New Balance sneakers belonging to a woman who jumped from the Patullo Bridge in Westminster in April 2004. Why are so many people's, like, just their feet getting, like, what?
People are having their feet cut off.
Yeah, that's weird. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because some of these do sound, like, not as suspicious, but some do sound suspicious.
Yeah, I think the idea is just that, like, there's mafia shit going on. People are getting their feet cut off.
A man's left foot was found by two hikers on June 19th floating in water in Delta. It has been confirmed that the left foot found on June 19th on Westham Island and the right foot on February 8th on Valdez Island belonged to the same man. On August 1st, 2008, a right foot inside a black size 11 shoe was discovered by a camper on a beach near Pashot, Washington. It was covered in seaweed. The site of the discovery was less than 16 kilometers from the international border in the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Testing confirmed that the foot was human. The large black top size 11 the testing confirmed that the foot was human is hilarious to me. The large black top size 11 athletic shoe for a right foot contained bones and flesh. This was part of the first foot of the series to be found outside of British Columbia. The RCMP in Calliam County Sheriff's Department agreed on August 5th that the foot could have been carried south from Canadian waters. In March 2025, 16 years after its discovery, the foot was identified as belonging to Jeff Sertel, age 17, at the time of his disappearance. Through genetic genealogy, Sertel had been missing from Mission, British Columbia since April 29, 2007. And that's funny because, like, a lot of these started in, like mid 2007, like around August. What else we got? A known woman's left foot near Richmond, British Columbia, November 11th, in a shoe that was found floating in the Fraser River. A known woman's
Yeah.
left foot in a shoe that was found floating in the Fraser River in Richmond. The shoe was described as a small New Balance running shoe, possibly a woman's shoe. A forensics DNA profiling analysis indicated that it was a genetic match to the foot discovered on May 22nd on Kirkland Island. On October 27, 2009, in Richmond, a right foot in a white size 8.5 Nike shoe was found near the Triangle Beach area of Richmond. The remains were identified as Vancouver area man who was reported missing in January 2008. In August 27, 2010, a woman or child's right foot without a shoe or sock. This foot was determined to have been in the water for 2 months. Detective Ed Walls of the Island County Sheriff's Office released a statement saying the foot would be tested for DNA. However, there was no match found in the National DNA Database. So it probably wasn't a kid, because at a certain point you had to get like your DNA taken, right? Isn't that a thing?
Like there's DNA of all of us.
Oh, I thought so. I mean,
in a government database.
I mean, there's prints of like almost all of us in a government database. I thought there was DNA too, but I could be wrong. Found on the tidal flats, the right foot was still inside a Boys 6 Ozark Trail hiking boot and likely belonged to a juvenile or small adult in Tacoma, Washington, in December 5th, 2010. Police spokesman Mark Fulgham said Tuesday in Tacoma. He didn't say the date. I added that. About 40 kilometers south of Seattle and 225 kilometers south of Vancouver. August 30th. Wow, there's so many of these. Holy shit. There's 24 of them. August 30th, 2011, Falls Creek, sex unknown. The foot was found in a men's white and blue size 9 runner floating next to the Plaza of Nations Marina attached to lower leg bones. Oh, this one was attached to the lower leg bone, so that's good. It had disarticulated naturally at the knee due to the water. A man's right foot inside a 12 hiking boot was discovered by a group of campers in a pool of fresh water at Sessamat Lake near Port Moody. In January 2012, this foot was identified by BC Coroner Service as that of Stefan Zaracujo, a local fisherman who went missing in 1987. Police believe that the foot separated naturally from the body and do not suspect foul play. A human leg bone and foot in a black plastic bag under the Ship Canal Bridge. As of January 2nd, 2012, the medical examiner had not found a cause of death or identified the body. On January 26, 2012, the remains of what appears to be human bones inside a boot were found in the sand along the waterline at the dog park near Maritime Museum at the foot of Arubis Street in Vancouver. May 6, 2014, a human foot found a New Balance shoe found along the shoreline of Centennial Park near Pier 86 Grain Terminal. The New Balance 622 athletic foot was white with blue trim. Size men's 10.5. The smallest shoe was first available for sale in April 2008. From an initial news photo, it appears to be a left foot. Honestly, I don't think this sounds mafia. This sounds to me more like human trafficking.
Oh, so like human slaves that get their feet cut off so they don't run away?
Something like that, yeah. Hikers on Botanical Beach near Port Renfrew on Vancouver Island found a foot in a sock running shoe. Or it could be organ harvesting too. And this could just be them like cutting up the bodies afterwards and like setting it out. Like, we should look up and see if there's like a large organ harvesting market in like near British Columbia. Hikers on Botanical Beach near Port Renfrew on Vancouver Island found a foot in a sock and running shoe. A foot washed up near Port Renfrew on Vancouver Island, BC. Coroner said it matches one found there 5 days earlier. Remains with the leg with the shoe attached washed up near the settlement of the Jordan River on Vancouver Island. The remains were later identified as belonging to 79-year-old Stanley Q. Okamoto of Silverdale, Washington. Shortly after noon on Sunday, the 6th of May, a man walking along the shore of Gabriel Island encountered a hiking boot with a human foot inside, wedged in a log jam. September 2018, a foot within a light gray Nike Free RN shoe on the shore near the 30th Street Beach access point in West Vancouver. The size 9.5 shoe was manufactured between... It was believed 1st of February and 17th of April 2017. It was believed to have been worn by a male in a blue sock. Victims believed to have been under the age of 50. A lot of Nikes and New Balances. The foot found in a boot later tied via DNA to Antonio Niel, missing since December 12, 2016, on Jetty Island, Everett. Locust Beach, Bellingham, Washington. A size 7 Brahma work boot was found washed up on the Locust Beach, just west of the Bellingham city limits. Inside the boot was a tube sock containing the bones of a right foot. It was determined that these remains belonged to a male. December 2021, size 8 New Balance shoes washed up on the shore of the Elwha River. In 2021, it was determined the foot belonged to Geraldine Smith, who went missing from Sesquin, Washington in January of 2018 after a joint effort from Othram and the Sultan County Sheriff's Office. And then July 23rd, 2023, Gonzales Beach, Victoria, BC. No details available publicly at this time. Sex unknown. The BC Coroner's Office are investigating. This is crazy. That's a lot of the same things happening in the same area. You might be right. Maybe this is mafia, but I feel like maybe it's connected to something else, like organ harvesting or like something crazy. Because like that's like seems like a real conspiracy right there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up real quick. British Columbia foot.
British Columbia foot. You're not going to get the results you think.
Yeah, I'm not coming up with anything yet. Okay, here's something. More than 80 victims are thought to have disappeared along Highway 16 in British Columbia, Canada since the 70s. The desolate stretch referred to as the Highway of Tears is known to be especially dangerous for Indigenous women. BC police have been accused of deliberately ignoring the problem. So maybe there's something weird going on in British Columbia.
I mean, there's definitely weird shit going on there.
Well, it says, lifelong BC resident here. The prevalent theories about the Highway of Tears is A, various truckers picking up girls and dumping bodies, and or B, serial killers working in the area. Additionally, there are a lot of impoverished community in that area, which lead to a lot of people hitchhiking to bigger cities. The more remote parts of BC can be terrifying. You can easily travel for hours seeing nothing but trees without cell service. When traveling on the desolate stretches, you're told not to stop for people in case they are bait for another group to jump on you, especially if you are traveling alone. But you'll never see that on a tourist government site. The government doesn't seem to care at all about this issue other than the PR it generates. Despite Justin Trudeau, it is one of the cornerstones of his election campaign.
Do you remember that terrifying scene from Children of Men? You know what I'm talking about? The car scene?
The one where he stumbles on all the trucks and like sees all the dead bodies and like realizes there's something
the one
crazy
where
happening.
they're driving in the road. I forgot what's in the middle of the road. There's like something blocking the road. And then like they just start like trying to figure out like, oh, what are we gonna do? And then their car starts getting swarmed from the sides of these people trying to kill them. Just these crazy people just viciously trying to murder them.
Oh, I forgot about that.
It was a road trap.
That sounds wild.
You catch all of their reactions to it, and it's one of those like long scenes.
Honestly, it's tough to go anywhere like that where like, you don't know where you're at and anything could happen at any time. You just gotta watch yourself.
We were talking with the man from Kentucky about like what the hell is even in northern Canada? Like what's even up there? It's probably all magical bullshit.
It's all magical bullshit. I feel like there is a lot of weird, probably secret shit going on in North Canada because I even seen a thing like people talking about it like how most of Canada lives in like a very small portion of like that area. And like people are like, well, what are you doing with the rest of that? And I bet you there's a lot of secret shit going on up there. There's so much territory. There's so much like
yeah, there's bases in Antarctica.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's way more unlivable.
Yeah, you're right. Than Canada. Yeah, what's going on in Canada? Maybe that's why Trump wants Canada, because something's up with Canada.
You know what's weird? Why are Canadian 25-cent coins the same exact size and shape as a American United States of American 25-cent coin?
I don't know. Is that a conspiracy or are you just pissed about it?
I just noticed it today.
I just noticed it today.
It's like they want them to get confused.
Yeah. And they took away their pennies and left us with all their pennies.
But now we're doing the same.
Yeah.
So what's up with that?
I don't know. Nobody's going to have pennies anymore. Nobody. We're all going to be telling people that they get their nickel back. And who wants their nickel back?
I'm not biting that bait.
Donald Marshall and the cloning centers. The most bizarre conspiracy ever. So this Canadian guy, Donald Marshall, claims his parents sold him into the Illuminati. Rich and powerful politicians, celebrities, large corporate CEOs, European royals, etc. At a young age, the Illuminati have cloning technology that allow them to have their consciousness transferred to a cloned version of themselves while they are in REM sleep. The clone versions of these people are kept in a cloning center, which are typically physically located in deep underground military bases. Although Marshall...
This is like what we were talking about when we were talking about the aliens, were like a way to like take over a human body, except it's just other humans doing it.
Yeah.
But what if it's not just other humans doing it? What if what we think are just humans taking over these clone human bodies are much older consciousnesses that are taking over human bodies?
Oh shit, dude. Hey, this is why this popped up with the British Columbia thing. Although Marshall claims the cloning center he attends nightly is located in Western Canada, British Columbia, next to a very secluded lake called Thirsty Lake. Dude, do you hear that? That's crazy.
Yeah.
At this cloning center, Marshall claims there are reptilian lizards called vril and other alien species that live deep underground in the earth. These alien species absolutely hate humans. The most interesting aspect of Donald's story is how he claims he has written nearly every hit song since about the late 80s while at this Canadian cloning center.
That is batshit insane.
That is wild, but like, let's keep going. As a child, it was discovered by the Illuminati that he had an incredible, almost magical ability to write songs that would sell very well and launch an artist career. Many big-name celebrities attended the cloning center and would ask him to write them songs. Tragically, Marshall claims he was tortured if he refused to write a song. What? Or just couldn't come up with a good song on the spot. Sometimes he was tortured to death, in which case his consciousness would be transferred to his original host body in eastern Canada. What? This story is so strange but incredibly interesting. He claims he left clues in some of his lyrics of songs he wrote. Many of the songs he mentions deal with similar themes that he talks about in his interviews. All of the songs he mentions have this very catchy, almost hypnotic melody to them, which is very characteristic of a Donald Marshall song. How he can string the single narrative across so many different songs is simply amazing. Either this guy is one of the most elaborate, creative liars ever, or he's telling the truth. The guy's face is literally on the cover of Megadeth's "The World Needs a Hero." You can read more about his story here. Well, he's got a website, the DonaldMarshallRevolution.com. Personally, I'd love to meet the guy. He's active on Twitter and Instagram, but he never replies messages. Can anyone confirm?
You should look up a list of Donald Marshall songs.
We've talked about this guy before, but we never got into the music aspect of his shit.
This fucking guy?
Yeah.
This guy?
Yeah.
This guy looks like a cross between Antonio Banderas and Ben Shapiro. Sorry, no. He looks like a cross between Antonio Banderas and Tim Pool.
I want to see his list of songs.
Time was...
The Vril are attacking me. Do you believe in life after Vril?
Try glory holes? You see that?
What did it say?
Try glory holes for safer sex during coronavirus. British Columbia CDC says. What's up with all the British Columbia and Canadian stuff? Did you look that up?
Yeah, because I wanted.
Is that what we're on?
Yeah,
right now?
I looked up British Columbia foot on conspiracy subreddit because I was trying to find some stuff like related to this.
We should go back to the list, but this was a really fascinating one.
Oh, dude! As I look this up, strange coincidences surrounding the Eliza Lamb case that came up with the British Columbia foot.
Huh.
Let's see.
Yeah, because she was actually from Canada.
Was she? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was Canadian.
What was her like backstory?
She was like on a trip, a school trip, or like a college school trip.
Yeah, it was weird, and she was like being.
We're
like,
not doing
chased.
Eliza Lamb. Eliza Lamb, I think, is how it's pronounced.
Yeah, Eliza. Is it Eliza Lamb? The woman that was being chased by something in the hotel and was kept looking back and forth outside of the hotel.
Why don't you ask her grieving parents how it's pronounced?
Hey, Eliza Lamb, mom and dad, how do you pronounce her name?
Hey, Eliza Lamb, mom and dad, how is it pronounced? The first name of your daughter's name.
Is that how you pronounce the last name too?
I assume, but it's probably like it could be like lam or lamb.
Lam. I mean, we could go through real quick a list. That disappearances list was almost over. We could go through this list of proven conspiracies too.
I mean, if you want to.
Yeah.
What else? What are the other options we could do? Like, let's really float all the
What
options.
what are the other options?
Ranked choice voting.
Ranked choice vote. I mean, I don't really have any other options. So maybe this is a totalitarian regime right now.
No. Let me think.
I mean, let's look. While you think, I'm gonna.
Wait.
Why can't I talk about list of proven conspiracies? What are you trying to hide?
If you want to, we can. I just think that's gonna be one that's like a lot of shit we already know about.
Yeah, but that's fine. Maybe there's something that we don't know in here.
That's fair. But start doing that while I look this up.
Yeah, updated list of proven conspiracies from 7 years ago. All right. COINTELPRO, we know about that. Operation Paperclip, where we took all the Nazi scientists, we already know about that. Operation Mockingbird, I mean, everybody knows about that. Large scale operation with the CIA in the Cold War, where they tried to manipulate the American news media to, put out the American propaganda. I think it was something like 150 like news organizations were putting out CIA influenced propaganda, and they had agents in all of those places influencing all of those organizations. The Bush administration used a psychological operation against the American public called the Pentagon Military Analyst Program to secretly spread pro-government talking points through the media for years. On the Russian news outlet RT, any direct criticism or questioning of Prime Minister Vladimir Putin or President Dmitry Medvedev is strictly prohibited. EPA, I mean, that we could have told you that one. EPA officials were aware of the severity of danger at Ground Zero in contrast to their public statements at the time. The New York City allowed people to return after the collapse of the towers because the mayor's office was under pressure from business owners to open more of the red zone. The Tulsa race riot on May 31st and June 1st, 1921. A white mob started the Tulsa race riot, attacking residents and businesses of the African-American community of Greenwood and Tulsa, in Oklahoma, in what is considered one of the worst incidents of racial violence in the United States history. The attack, carried out on the ground and by air, destroyed more than 35 blocks of the district, at the time the wealthiest black community in the nation. More than 800 people were admitted to hospitals, and more than 6,000 black residents were arrested and detained, many for several days. The Oklahoma Bureau of Vital Statistics officially recorded 39 dead, but the American Red Cross estimated 300, a number supported by historians then. There's this other dude named Fred Chrisman, who was, I guess, involved in the Tulsa race riot, and he was also involved in the JFK assassination too. The Enterprise, a massive corporate network that conducted illegal international activities similar to the CIA. Political abuse of psychiatry. Operation Sea Spray. What is Operation Sea Spray? A 1950 U.S. Navy secret biological warfare experiment in which Serratia marsens and Bacillus globigi bacteria were sprayed over the San Francisco Bay Area in California. I actually heard about this recently in order to determine how vulnerable a city like San Francisco may be to a bioweapon attack. There have been speculation that the experiment may have been contributed to one death and at least 10 illnesses. Yeah, I heard about that. They got like a few people sick because they sprayed like bacteria and shit. That's interesting. Residents checked in with a very rare serious urinary tract infections. Although 10 recovered, Edward J. Nevin, who had recent prostate surgery, died 3 weeks later from a heart valve infection. The urinary tract outbreak was so unusual, the Stanford doctors wrote it up for a medical journal. None of the other hospitals in the city reported similar spikes in the cases, and all 11 victims had UTI infections. Following medical procedures suggesting that the source of their infections was inside the hospital, cases of pneumonia in San Francisco also increased after Serratia marsens was released, although a causal relation was not established. The bacterium was also combined with phenol and anthrax simulant and sprayed across South Dorset by the U.S. and U.K. military scientists as part of the DICE trials that ran from 71 to 75. There was no evidence that the Army had alerted health authorities before it blanketed the region with bacteria. Doctors had wondered whether the experiment might be responsible for heart valve infections around the same time, as well as serious infections seen among intravenous drug users in the 60s and 70s. That's interesting. Operation Big Buzz. A U.S. military entomological warfare field test conducted in 1955 on the Savannah, Georgia's predominantly black Carver Village neighborhood. The test involved dispersing over 300,000 mosquitoes from aircraft and through ground dispersal methods. The test appears to have been conducted by the Chemical Corps and the Army's Research and Development Command. Operation Big Buzz occurred in June 55 in the U.S. state of Georgia. Field test designed to determine the feasibility of producing, storing, loading into munitions, and dispersing from aircraft the yellow fever mosquito. These were not infected for the test. The second goal of the operation was to determine whether the mosquitoes would survive the dispersion and seek meals on the ground. Around 330,000 uninfected mosquitoes were dropped from the aircraft in E-14 bombs dispersed from the ground in Savannah, Georgia's predominantly black Carver Village neighborhood. In total, about 1 million female mosquitoes were bred for the testing. Remaining mosquitoes were suited in munitions loading and storage tests. Those mosquitoes that were air dispersed were dropped from airplanes 300 feet above the ground, spreading out on their own and due to the wind. Results: the mosquitoes were collected as far away as 2,000 feet from the release site. They were also active in seeking blood meals from humans and guinea pigs. That's pretty crazy. I heard about that in this weird warfare documentary I watched a long time ago, where they talked about a lot of that kind of weird stuff, like experiments on biological warfare and stuff like that. One of the other things they talked about on that documentary that I thought was kind of interesting was that there were a few things that were pretty interesting. One of them was we tried to spy on the Russians by putting a call it on a cat listening device, like a spy listening device on a cat. The reason why is because there were a bunch of Russians that would sit on a bench every day, like across from like the Capitol building or something like that they knew would like talk like secret, like they knew they could get secret information out of these guys. So what they did was they tried to bug these cats. And what kept happening was the cats were trying to like walk across the street, and they would either get distracted by birds, they would get hit by cars. Like, it was just not working at all to try and spy on these Russians. Another one is they were trying to make destroyer warships out of sawdust and ice in order to make the cost of warships a lot cheaper and mass produce warships, which is probably one of the more weird ones in hindsight. I thought at the time that was an interesting idea, but now in hindsight, I'm like, that seems crazy to me. You have Project 112. It was a biological and chemical weapon experimentation project conducted by the U.S. Department of Defense from 62 to 73. The project started under JFK's administration, was authorized by the Secretary of Defense McNamara as a part of a total review of the U.S. military. The name Project 112 refers to this project's number in the 150 project review process authorized by McNamara. Funding and staff were contributed by every branch of the U.S. Armed Services and intelligence agencies, a euphemism for the Office of Technical Services of the CIA's Directorate of Science and Technology. Canada and the UK also participated in some Project 112 activities. Project 112 primarily concerned the use of aerosols to disseminate biological and chemical agents that could produce controlled temporary incapacitation. The test program would be conducted on a large scale at extracontinental test sites in Central and South Pacific and Alaska in conjunction with Britain and Canada and Australia. At least 50 trials were conducted. Of at least 18 tests involved simulants of biological agents such as BG, and at least 14 involved chemical agents including sarin, VX, but also tear gas and other simulants. Test sites included Porton Down, Ralston, and at least 13 U.S. warships. The shipborne trials were collectively known as the Shipboard Hazard and Defense. Project was coordinated from Desiree Test Center, Utah. As of 2005, publicly available information on Project 112 remains incomplete.
So, I was quiet because I was looking something up.
Yeah.
It's something that's been itching my brain for a while now, and I still haven't really gotten to the bottom of it. but I think I'm about to get to the bottom of it. But if you want to look it up and cover it real quick, that'd be cool.
It's up to you. I'm down with what was it?
So I don't remember if it was Last Podcast on the Left or if it was Astonishing Legends or some podcast like that. I remember hearing about I think it was like a long podcast about this one dude who like was in the paranormal world. But there's like one story about like when he was older, his like younger like a grandson or a granddaughter, maybe it was like a son or a daughter or something, was talking to him, and like, he explained that like, oh yeah, no, like I can really do some like I can really do mysterious stuff. And then he like levitated, or he like levitated something in front of them, and then told them like, you can't tell that to anybody. You can't. I can't. I'm not even supposed to do that. I probably shouldn't have even shown you that, but I just wanted to share that with you, or something like that. And I thought that was so fascinating, and I forgot about it for a while, and it's just recently been in my mind a lot lately. So I was looking it up, and I think I may have found who it was. I didn't really dig any much deeper than that.
Mhm.
And we could talk about this on another episode, perhaps. But I think you may even know about him. Look at the names. So it's either Ingo Swann or Uri Geller.
Well, Uri Geller was the dude that we talked about who was a fraud. Remember? Uri Geller was the dude that used to move spoons with his fingers, and what he was doing was he was just like he used to bend the spoons with his fingers.
Look up Ingo Swann. I think it might be him. I was asking ChatGPT to give me these people. I was like asking ChatGPT to figure this out for me.
Alien bases on the moon.
That's what he talked about, this guy?
Yeah.
There's a story here. This is a very parallel story to the one I was remembering. It says there's a story about him levitating a small object in front of a military scientist who was then asked or warned not to speak of.
Ingo Swann, whose clairvoyance claims were investigated by the CIA. Swann is credited as the creator of the term remote viewing, a term which refers to the use of extrasensory perception to perceive distant persons, places, or events. Swann was a prominent celebrity Scientologist during the 70s, having attained the level of operating thetan through Scientology auditing. It is purported that the attainment of the level may extend one's psychic abilities, including controlled out-of-body experiences called extoriorization in Scientology. During this time, Swann demonstrated his extoriorization skills at the Stanford Research Institute in experiments that would come to be known as secularly as remote viewing. These experiments caught the attention of the CIA. He is commonly credited with proposing the idea of controlled remote viewing, a process in which viewers could view a location given nothing but its geographical coordinates, which was developed and tested by Puthoff and Targ with CIA funding. Uri Geller, due to the...
What about the story? Oh, you're still just reading about Uri Geller right now?
No, this is Ingo Swann. Uri Geller, due to the popularity of Uri Geller in the 70s, skeptics and historians basically overlooked a critical examination of Swann's paranormal claims. Uri Geller commented very favorably on Swann, saying, "If you were blind and a man appeared who could teach you to see with mind power, you would revere him as a guru. So why is Ingo Swann ignored by publishers and forced to publish his astounding life story on the internet?" Interesting.
I was going to say, look up the story about him levitating an object.
Magnetometer psychokinesis tests. When Swann arrived at SRI, Harold Puthoff decided he would first be tested for PK. On June 6, 1972, the two men visited Dr. Arthur Hebert and his quark detector, a magnetometer, at the Varian Physics Building. The well-shielded magnetometer had a small magnetic probe in a vault 5 feet beneath the floor. The oscillation ran silently for about an hour, tracing a stable pattern on the chart recorder. Puthoff asked Swann if he could affect the magnetometer's magnetic field. Swann said he focused his attention on the interior of the magnetometer and was getting nothing. Then there are different versions of the following events. Puthoff states that after about a 5-second delay, Hebert says it was a 10 to 15 minute delay. The frequency of the trace recorder oscillation doubled for about 30 seconds. reportedly a common occurrence due to variations in the shared helium line to the laboratory. Hebert continued, and then the curve burped. Swann asked, "Is that what I am supposed to do?" Swann said he responded, "Is that in effect?" According to Hebert, Swann crossed the room, taking his attention away from the chart recorder. Swann said he took his mind off the machine and was sketching. Others watched the recorder to see if the irregularity would be repeated, and it was. Puthoff asked Swann, "Did you do that too?" Again, "Is that in effect?" According to Puthoff, Swann said that he was then tired and couldn't hold it any longer and let go. The chart recorder pattern returned to normal. More supportive sources say that Hebert supports Puthoff's version. In the second instance, Hebert suggested that he would be more impressed if Swann could stop the field change altogether. Hebert denies he told James Randi that he never suggested it. Swann recalled he heard, "Can you do that again?" Former Puthoff, Swann said. His feats frightened some doctoral candidates, claiming that two virtually ran from the room and one collided with a totally visible structure support. I don't think that was what we were talking about, but that was interesting. Swann's descriptions of Jupiter, brain activity during remote viewing, ufology. He concludes that extraterrestrials are living on Earth in humanoid bodies. Swann deduces that there are many extraterrestrials, that many are and their only foes on Earth are psychics. Later, Swann, an individual known as Mr. Axelrod, took a flight to an unknown northerly destination deduced by Swann as possibly Alaska, along with two twin bodyguards. Swann and Axelrod attempted to secretly watch a recurrent UFO appear and suck up the water of a lake. Mr. Axelrod discloses that the silent, growing, oscillating triangle simultaneously scanning the area and eliminating any animals in the area. The silent beams emanating from the object were blasting deer or porcupines from the woods or something. That's crazy. The twin bodyguards come to the attention that they've been discovered and the group is attacked by the UFO. Swann is thrown to safety by his colleagues and sustained a minor injury. Was it Ingo Swann, though, or Uri Geller? Because Uri Geller's thing, I think, was levitation. So watch out, dude, because Uri Geller is, like I said, Uri Geller was bullshit. I'm going to look it up right now. There is no publicly available verified scientific documentation of Ingo Swann performing levitation in a laboratory setting. However, several lesser-known sources and personal testimonies and Swann's own writing suggest that he had psychokinetic testing at the SSRI or controlled lab. That's the one that I was talking about that I thought would be connected. Levitation was never the primary focus of these studies, but PK experiments involving small objects were. It is rumored that anomalous events occurred, such as objects moving or temperature changes in Swann's presence, but these were not officially classified as levitation.
Maybe it wasn't one of these guys. I remember I thought it was like Edgar Casey or something, but it wasn't Edgar Casey either.
I mean, it could have been Uri Geller. Just don't fall for his shit because he is literally a con artist.
If he has a story about, because like the whole point of this is that I didn't read too much into Uri Geller when I was saying that. I guess like he was telling people that like, yep, I got all these abilities and like it's really cool. But like the whole point of this guy is like he wasn't really like telling people he could levitate. He was just like I think he was like very Christian. He was very religious.
That sounds like Edgar Casey.
Exactly. And then one time he just like in front of his like grandson or like child or something just started levitating.
I think that's Edgar Casey that you're talking about, dude. I literally think that's it. I think that's him.
ChatGPT said it wasn't.
I thought I thought that's a story that his kid like told or something like that. I thought I remember that.
That's what I thought it was. Look that up.
Daniel Douglas Home, a Scottish medium with the reported ability to levitate to a variety of heights, speak with the dead, and produce rapping and knocks in houses at will. His biographer Peter Lamont opines that he was once the most famous men of his era. Harry Houdini described him as one of the most conspicuous and lauded of his type and generation, and the forerunner of the mediums whose forte is fleecing by presuming on the credulity of the public. Home conducted hundreds of seances, which were attended by many eminent Victorians. There have been eyewitness accounts by seance sitters describing conjuring methods and fraud that Home may have employed. This might be the guy. Alleged levitations A feat of low levitation by Daniel Douglas Home was recorded by paranormal historian Frank Podmore. We all saw him rise from the ground slowly to a height of about 6 inches, remain there for about 10 seconds, and then slowly descend. Home met one of his future closest friends in 1867, the young Lord Adair. Adair was fascinated by Home and began documenting the seances they held. The following year, Home was said to have levitated out of the third-story window of one room and back in through the window of the adjoining room in front of 3 witnesses. Lord Adair stated that Holmes swung out and in of a window in a horizontal position. However, John Sladek has pointed out that all 3 witnesses gave contradictory information about the levitation, even contradicting themselves about specific details. Trevor H. Hall, who researched the case in detail, established that the levitation took place at the Ashley Place in Westminster at a height of 35 feet, and suggested rather than levitating, Home had stepped across a gap of 4 feet between 2 iron balconies. Bordenstein also noted that the gap between the 2 balconies was only 4 feet, making the pass between them entirely feasible. Joseph McCabe wrote regarding the alleged levitation, "No one professes to have seen Home carried from window to window. Home told the 3 men who were present that he was going to be wafted, and he thus set up a state of very nervous expectation. Both Lord Crawford and Lord Adair say that they were warned. And Lord Crawford says that he saw the shadow on the wall of Home entering the room horizontally, and as the moon, by whose light he professes to have seen the shadow, was at the most only 3 days old, his testimony is absolutely worthless. Lord Adair claims only that he saw Home in the dark, standing upright outside our window in the dark. It was an almost moonless December night. One could not, as a matter of fact, say very positively whether Home was outside or inside, but in any case, he acknowledges that there was a 19-inch window still outside the window and Home could stand on that. A few days before the levitation scaring Lord Lindsay, Home had opened the same window, stepped out, and stood on the outside ledge in the presence of 2 witnesses. Ivor Lord Tuckett argued Home did this to provide a rough sketch of the picture which he aimed at producing. Another possible natural explanation for Holmes' famous levitation was proposed by the psychical researcher Guy William Lambert, who suggested he had attached a rope to the chimneys on the roof of the building and hung the rope down unseen to the 3rd floor. During the alleged levitation, Holmes swung out and in the room by using a double rope maneuver. Lambert's rope hypothesis was supported by the magician John Booth. Arthur Conan Doyle said there were many cases on record of Home levitating, but skeptics assert the alleged levitations occurred in darkened conditions susceptible to trickery. Yeah, Arthur Conan Doyle, stick to writing fucking Sherlock Holmes, thinking that you're all smart and shit.
He is. He's all about like figuring out mysteries.
Yeah, well, if he is, then
Well, he's about writing them. But you know what I mean?
But does that make him the smart guy in the room, or does that make him the guy that thinks he's smart and writes about things that he thinks he understands? Something to think about there,
Something to think about.
Science historian Sherry Lynn Lyons has stated that a possible explanation for Holmes' alleged levitation phenomenon was revealed in the 20th century by Clarence E. Willard. Willard revealed his technique in 1958 to members of the Society of American Magicians. He demonstrated how he could add 2 inches to his height by stretching. According to Lyons, it is quite likely that Holmes used a similar technique to the one that Willard used decades later. Author Donald Sorel Thomas has asserted that Jean-Eugene Robert Houdin, the French stage magician, was refused to admission to Holmes' seances. In opposition, the spiritualists have said that Houdin was unable to explain the phenomena at a Holmes seance. Regarding both these claims, Peter Lamont has noted, it is probably worth noting, if only to avoid confusion, that such claims, much like those made by spiritualists that conjurers were unable to explain the phenomena, were often unfounded. For example, spiritualists claim that Robert Houdin had been unable to explain what happened at a Holmes seance, and critics claimed that Holmes had refused an invitation to perform in front of Robert Houdin. However, there is not a shred of evidence for either of these claims. Interesting. There are allegations of fraud. It is often claimed in parapsychology and spiritualist books that Holmes was never caught in fraud. However, skeptics have stated this claim does not hold up to scrutiny, as Holmes was caught utilizing tricks by different witnesses on several occasions. Gordon Stein has noted that while the statement that Holmes was never caught in fraud had been made many times, it simply is not true. It is simply that Holmes was never publicly exposed in fraud. Privately, he was caught in fraud several times. In addition, there are natural explanations, both possible and likely, for each of his phenomena. At a seance in the house of solicitor John Snaith Reimer in Ealing in July 1855, a sitter observed that a spirit hand was in fact a false limb attached on the end of Holmes' arm. Merrifield also claimed to have observed Holmes use his foot in the seance room. The poet Robert Browning and his wife Elizabeth attended a seance on 23rd July 1855 in Ealing with the Reimers. In 1895, after the deaths of Robert and Elizabeth, the journalist Frederick Greenwood alleged that Browning had told him that during the seance he had taken hold of a luminous object that appeared above the edge of the table, which turned out to be Holmes' naked foot. Later, Browning's son, Robert, in a letter to the London Times on the 5th of December 1902, also referred to the incident, saying that Browning had caught hold of Holmes' foot under the table. The allegation was repeated by Harry Houdini and later writers. But detailed descriptions of the seance written soon afterwards by Robert and Elizabeth make no mention of any such incident. Browning's account states that although he was promised that he would be allowed to hold a spirit hand, the promise was not kept. Writing in the Journal for the Society of Psychical Research, Count Petrovsky Petrovos Lavovo described a letter by Dr. Barthez, a physician in the court of Empress Eugenie, which claimed a sitter, Morio de Il, caught Holmes using his foot to fake supposed spirit effects during a seance in Biarritz in 1857. Holmes wore thin shoes, easy to take off and draw on, and also cut socks that left the toes free. At the appropriate moment, he takes off one of his shoes and with his foot pulls a dress here and a dress there, rings a bell, knocks on one way and another, and the thing done. Quickly puts his shoe on again. Holmes positioned himself between the Empress and Napoleon III. One of the seance sitters, known as the General Fleury, also suspected that Holmes was utilizing trickery and asked to leave, but returned unobserved to watch from another door behind the home. He saw Holmes slip his foot from his shoe and touch the arm of the Empress, who believes it to be one of her dead children. The observer stepped forward and revealed the fraud, and Holmes was conducted out of the country. The order was kept to the incident secret.
That's hilarious.
The allegations described by Dr. Barthez and General Fleury are secondhand and have caused dispute between the psychical researchers and skeptics. Wow. The journalist Delia Logan, who attended a seance with Holmes in London, claimed that Holmes had used the phosphorus trick